The wind howled across the empty plains of Valaris 7 as Yuna wiped grease from her hands. Another day, alone at Outpost 47. Another day, fixing broken machines that travelers left behind. She did not mind the loneliness. The stars kept her company at night, and the work kept her busy during the day. Yuna was 28 years old. She had brown eyes, short black hair, and hands covered in old scars from years of working with tools. She was not tall or strong. She was just a mechanic. A human mechanic on a planet far from Earth, doing a job nobody else wanted to do. Her small station sat in the middle of nowhere. The nearest human colony was 3 days away by ship. Most travelers who stopped here were aliens passing through, needing quick repairs before continuing their journeys. Yuna fixed their ships, took her payment, and watched them fly away. It was a simple life. That afternoon, she was eating lunch when her sensors started beeping. Something was approaching. Something small and fast. Yuna put down her food and walked outside. The sky was orange, filled with dust clouds that never seemed to settle. She shielded her eyes and looked up. A small object was falling from the sky, leaving a trail of smoke behind it. "That's not a ship," she said to herself. The object crashed about 200 meters from her station. The impact was not big, but it kicked up dirt and rocks. Yuna grabbed her toolkit and ran toward it. When she arrived, she found a small crater in the ground. Inside the crater was a creature she had never seen before. It was about the size of a large dog, with scales that shimmered between blue and purple. It had wings folded against its back, a long tail, and a face that looked almost like a lizard mixed with something more elegant. Its eyes were golden and very large. A dragon. It looked like a baby dragon from the old Earth stories. Yuna had heard rumors about the Drakari. Everyone in the galaxy had. They were an ancient race, older than most stars. They ruled an empire so big that humans could not even imagine it. They looked like dragons, breathed fire, and had technology that made human machines look like children's toys. Most importantly, they did not care about humans. To them, humanity was too young and too weak to matter. But here was one of their children, lying in a crater on her planet. The baby dragon was crying. The sound it made was high and sad, like a kitten in pain. It was holding something in its tiny claws, pressing it against its chest. Yuna could see the object was some kind of crystal ball about the size of an apple. The crystal was cracked, and its inner light was flickering like a dying candle. Yuna's heart broke at the sight. She did not think about politics or empires, or the fact that this creature's family could destroy her planet without trying. She only saw a child who was hurt and scared. She approached slowly, keeping her hands visible. "Hey there," she said softly. "Hey, little one. It's okay. I'm not going to hurt you." The baby dragon looked at her with those big golden eyes. Tears were streaming down its scaled face. It made another crying sound and held up the broken crystal ball, showing it to Yuna like a child showing a broken toy to an adult. "Oh, sweetheart," Yuna whispered. "Is that yours? Is it broken?" The dragon chirped. It was a sad, desperate sound. It pushed the crystal toward Yuna again, clearly begging for help. Yuna knelt down in the dirt. She was now at eye level with the creature. Up close, she could see how beautiful it was. Its scales caught the light and created tiny rainbows. Its wings were thin and delicate, like colored glass. But its eyes were filled with so much sadness that Yuna felt her own eyes getting wet. "Can I see it?" she asked, reaching out her hand slowly. "Can I look at your toy? I fix things. That's my job. Maybe I can help." The dragon hesitated. It looked at Yuna's hand, then at her face. It seemed to be thinking, deciding if this strange creature could be trusted. Then, very slowly, it placed the crystal ball in Yuna's palm. The ball was warm. Yuna could feel energy humming inside it, even though she did not understand what kind of energy it was. The crack ran deep, almost cutting the ball in half. Whatever was inside was dying. "Okay," Yuna said. "Okay, let me take a look. Come with me. I have tools inside." She stood up and started walking back to her station. After a moment, she heard small footsteps behind her. The baby dragon was following her, its wings dragging on the ground, its tail leaving a line in the dirt. Inside her station, Yuna cleared off her workbench and placed the crystal ball under a light. The dragon jumped up onto a chair and watched her with intense focus. It had stopped crying, but its eyes were still wet. "I'm Yuna," she said, even though she did not know if the creature could understand her. "What's your name, little one?" The dragon made a sound. It was soft and musical, like a bell mixed with a bird's song. "Bomi." It seemed to say, "Bomi?" Yuna smiled. "That's pretty. Okay, Bomi, let's see what we have here." She examined the crystal bowl carefully. She had never seen technology like this. The crystal was not just glass or stone. It seemed to be alive somehow, filled with light and patterns that moved like liquid. She could see images flickering inside, broken and scattered. Images of another dragon, much bigger, with scales of deep red and gold. "Is that your mom?" Yuna asked just softly. "Bom." I chirped sadly and nodded. "Yun." I understood now. This was not just a toy. It was a memory. A recording of someone Bomi loved. And it was breaking apart. She looked at her tools. Human tools. Simple tools made for fixing human machines. She had no idea how Drakari technology worked. She had no manuals, no instructions, no training. Any expert would tell her this repair was impossible, but Yuna looked at Bomi's sad golden eyes, and she made a decision. "I'll fix it," she said. "I don't know how yet, but I'll fix it. I promise." Bomi made a hopeful sound and moved closer to Yuna, pressing against her arm like a cat seeking comfort. Yuna felt the warmth of the little dragon's body and smiled. She had no idea what she was getting into. She did not know that Bomi was a princess. She did not know that eyes were watching from the stars above. She only knew that a child needed help, and she was going to give it. That was enough. Night fell on Velaris 7, and Yuna was still working. The crystal ball sat on her workbench, glowing weakly under the bright lights. Bomi had fallen asleep on a pile of blankets in the corner, exhausted from crying and traveling. Every few minutes, the little dragon would make small sounds in her sleep, like she was having bad dreams. Yuna rubbed her tired eyes and looked at the crack in the crystal. She had been studying it for hours. She had tried scanning it with every tool she owned. She had read every file in her database about alien technology. Nothing helped. The Drakari were so advanced that human science could not even begin to understand their machines. But Yuna was stubborn. That was something humans were famous for across the galaxy. Other species called them crazy, foolish, or brave. Humans called it being determined. "Okay," she said to herself. "Think, what do I know?" She knew the crystal was cracked. She knew there was energy inside that was leaking out through the crack. She knew that if the energy escaped completely, the memories stored inside would be lost forever. She knew Bomi would be heartbroken. "So I need to seal the crack," she said. "Simple enough. Except the crack is an alien crystal that I don't understand, and I have no alien tools to work with." She looked around her workshop. She had welding equipment, quantum sealant, basic repair kits, and lots of spare parts from different ships. Nothing designed for Drakari technology. Nothing even close. But then Yuna had a thought. A crazy thought. "Maybe I'm thinking about this wrong," she said. "Maybe I don't need to understand how it works. Maybe I just need to seal the crack and let the crystal heal itself." It was a wild guess, but it was better than nothing. She picked up her quantum sealant gun. This tool was used to seal cracks in spaceship hulls. It created a bond at the molecular level, stronger than any glue. Would it work on alien crystal? She had no idea. But she was going to try. First, she needed to stabilize the energy inside the crystal. The light was flickering badly now, getting weaker every minute. Yuna grabbed some copper wire from her supplies and wrapped it carefully around the ball. Copper conducted energy. Maybe it would help contain whatever was leaking out. The flickering slowed down a little. It was working. Sort of. Next, she examined the crack more closely. It was not a clean break. The edges were jagged and uneven. If she tried to seal it with sealant alone, there would be gaps. She needed something to fill those gaps. Yuna thought for a moment. Then she reached into her pocket and pulled out her personal communication device. It was a small machine that let her talk to other humans across space. It was also her only connection to the outside world. Inside the device was a tiny crystal chip. Human-made, not Drakari, but still a crystal. Maybe it would help bridge the gap. She took apart her communicator and removed the chip. It was small, about the size of her fingernail. She would never be able to call for help now. But looking at Bomi sleeping peacefully in the corner, she decided it was worth it. Using her smallest tools, Yuna carefully placed the chip into the deepest part of the crack. It fit surprisingly well, almost like it belonged there. Then she applied the quantum sealant around it, sealing the edges of the crack millimeter by millimeter. The work was slow and careful. One wrong move could shatter the crystal completely. Yuna's hands were steady, but her heart was beating fast. Sweat dripped down her forehead. Hours passed. The night got darker. The only sounds were Yuna's breathing and the soft hum of her tools. Finally, just as the first light of dawn appeared outside her window, Yuna finished. The crack was sealed. The copper wire was still wrapped around the ball, holding the energy inside. The human crystal chip was now part of the Drakari device, joining two technologies that should never have met. Yuna leaned back in her chair, exhausted. Okay, she whispered. Moment of truth. She carefully removed the copper wire. The crystal ball sat silently on the workbench. For a terrible moment, nothing happened. Yuna felt her heart sink. Then the light inside the ball began to grow stronger. The flickering stopped. The crystal started to glow with a steady, warm light brighter than before. The images inside became clear, no longer broken and scattered. Yes! Yuna shouted, jumping up from her chair. Yes, yes, yes! Her shout woke up Bomi. The little dragon lifted her head, confused for a moment. Then she saw the glowing crystal ball, and her golden eyes went wide. Bomi jumped off the blankets and ran to the workbench. She grabbed the crystal ball with her tiny claws and held it close to her chest. When she touched it, the ball activated. A hologram appeared in the air above the crystal. It showed a beautiful dragon, much larger than Bomi, with scales of deep red and gold. The dragon in the hologram was singing a soft, gentle song. A lullaby. Bom, I made a sound that was half laugh and half cry. She pressed the crystal against her face, watching her mother's image with pure joy. The lullaby filled the small station with its sweet melody. Yuna watched with tears in her eyes. She did not understand the words of the song, but she understood its meaning. It was a mother's love, preserved in crystal, now restored. Suddenly, Bomi put down the crystal and launched herself at Yuna. The little dragon wrapped her, wings around Yuna's neck, and hugged her tightly. Yuna could feel Bomi's small body shaking with happiness. You're welcome, little one, Yuna said, hugging her back. You're very welcome. They stayed like that for a long time. A human and a dragon, two species from opposite ends of the galaxy, connected by a simple act of kindness. Yuna did not know that her repair was supposed to be impossible. The Drakari's finest artisans, with thousands of years of knowledge, had declared the memory sphere beyond saving. They had the best tools, the best materials, the best training. And they had failed. Yuna had succeeded with copper wire, quantum sealant, and a communication chip. She had succeeded because she refused to accept failure. She had succeeded because a child was counting on her. That was the human way. Outside, the sun rose over Valoris 7. Inside, Bomi played her mother's lullaby again and again, dancing around the station with joy. Yuna smiled and started making breakfast. She did not know that far above, hidden among the stars, someone was watching. Someone who had seen everything. Someone who was very, very interested in what this human had just done. But for now, Yuna was happy. She had fixed a broken toy. She had made a new friend. That was enough. High above the planet Valoris 7, hidden behind a cloud of space dust, a Drakari warship floated silently. It was not a big ship by Drakari standards, but it was still larger than any human vessel ever built. Its dark scales blended perfectly with the blackness of space, making it invisible to human sensors. Inside the ship, a dragon named Taiwan sat in front of multiple screens. He had been watching the human outpost for 2 days now, recording everything. His scales were silver and gray, the colors of a royal guardian. His job was to protect the imperial family, and right now, that job had brought him to this forgotten corner of the galaxy. Princess Bomi had disappeared 3 days ago. She had been traveling with her escorts through a nearby system when she somehow sneaked away from her guards and flew off in a small transport pod. The entire Drakari Empire was searching for her. Taiwan had tracked her signal to this planet, to this tiny human station. At first, he had been ready to descend immediately and take the princess home. But then he had stopped. He had watched the human woman take in the crying hatchling. He had watched her work through the night to fix the memory sphere. He had watched her sacrifice her only communication device without hesitation. Now, he was watching Bomi and the human eat breakfast together. The princess was sitting on the table, eating some kind of human food and making happy sounds. The human woman was laughing at something the princess did. Taiwan had never seen anything like it. His communicator beeped. A voice came through, deep and ancient, carrying the weight of 10,000 years. It was Emperor Haiyan himself. Guardian Taiwan, report. Taiwan straightened in his seat, even though the emperor could not see him. Your Radiance. I have located Princess Bomi. She is safe and unharmed. Where is she? On a frontier planet called Valoris 7, Your Radiance. She is with a human. There was a long pause. The emperor's voice became colder. Explain. Taiwan took a deep breath and began his report. He told the emperor everything. How Bomi had crash-landed near a human repair station. How the human woman had taken her in without knowing who she was. How she had worked through the night to fix the memory sphere. The memory sphere, Your Radiance, Taiwan said carefully. The one that was damaged in the accident 3 cycles ago. The one our artisans said could not be repaired. Another long pause. Are you telling me a human fixed it? Yes, Your Radiance. I have recordings. Show me. Taiwan sent the video files to the Emperor's ship, which was waiting several star systems away. He waited nervously as the Emperor watched. On his own screen, Taiwan could see the recordings playing again. He saw Yuna examining the crystal with her primitive human tools. He saw her wrapping copper wire around it. He saw her taking apart her communication device and using the chip to bridge the crack. He saw the moment when the crystal started glowing again. When Bomi launched herself at the human in joy, the Emperor's voice came through again. And this time, it sounded different, surprised, almost confused. She used copper wire? Yes, Your Radiance. And some kind of adhesive? Quantum sealant to your radiance. A human bonding agent. And a piece of her own technology. Her communication device. Yes, your radiance. She can no longer contact other humans. She sacrificed her only link to her own kind. Silence stretched across the stars. Taiwan had served the emperor for 300 years. He had never heard him speechless before. Finally, the emperor spoke. Why? Your radiance? Why did she do it? She did not know who Bomi was. She had no reason to expect reward. She gave up her ability to call for help. Why? Taiwan thought about the question. He had been asking himself the same thing. I believe. She simply wanted to help, your radiance. She saw a child in distress and acted. Without calculation? Without hope of gain? It appears so, your radiance. Another pause. When the emperor spoke again, his voice was quiet. Replay the moment when Bomi hugged her. Taiwan found the recording and played it again. On screen, Bomi wrapped her tiny wings around Yuna's neck. Yuna smiled and hugged her back, saying soft words in her human language. The scene was simple, ordinary, even. But there was something beautiful about it. The human, the emperor said slowly. What is her name? Yuna, your radiance. She is a mechanic, 28 years old. Stationed alone at this outpost for the past 2 years. Alone? Yes, your radiance. Humans sometimes take jobs like this. They call it finding peace. The emperor made a sound that might have been a laugh. Humans are strange creatures. We have watched them for centuries, waiting to see if they would destroy themselves like so many young species do. They are chaotic, violent, short-lived. We decided long ago that they were not worth our attention. Taiwan said nothing. It was not his place to comment on imperial policy. But this human, the emperor continued. This Yuna, she did something our finest artisans could not do. She did it with primitive tools and no training. She did it for no reason except kindness. Humans have a saying, your radiance, Taiwan offered. They say that necessity is the mother of invention. Perhaps when they lack proper tools, they find other ways. Or perhaps we have forgotten something they still remember, the emperor said softly. Guardian Taiwan. Yes, your radiance. Do not retrieve the princess yet. Continue watching. I want to see more of this human. Taiwan bowed his head even though the emperor could not see him. As you command, your radiance. And Taiwan? Prepared the fleet. I will be coming personally. Taiwan's eyes widened. The emperor almost never left the imperial palace. For him to travel personally to a remote frontier planet was unheard of. Your radiance? Is that necessary? I wish to meet this human myself, the emperor said. I wish to understand her. And I wish to thank her for helping my daughter when no one else could. The communication ended. Taiwan sat back in his chair, his mind spinning. The emperor was coming. The entire imperial fleet was coming. All for one human mechanic on a forgotten planet. Below, on the surface of Velaris 7, Yuna was teaching Bomi how to play a simple human card game. The little dragon kept trying to eat the cards, making Yuna laugh. Neither of them had any idea what was about to happen. Taiwan watched them and felt something strange in his chest. Something he had not felt in centuries. Hope. 3 days had passed since Bomi arrived at Yuna's station. 3 wonderful days filled with laughter, games, and shared meals. Yuna had never been happier. She had always thought she enjoyed being alone. But now she realized she had just been lonely without knowing it. Bomi followed her everywhere. When Yuna worked on repairs, Bomi sat nearby and watched with curious eyes. When Yuna cooked food, Bomi tried to help by breathing tiny flames to heat things. When Yuna went to sleep, Bomi curled up at the foot of her bed like a scaly cat. They had developed their own language. Bomi could not speak human words, and Yuna could not speak Drakari. But they understood each other through sounds, gestures, and expressions. Yuna would point at something and say its name. Bomi would repeat it in her chirping voice. They laughed at each other's mistakes. But on the morning of the fourth day, everything changed. Yuna was outside checking her weather sensors when the alarm went off. It was not the normal alarm for approaching ships. It was the emergency alarm, the one that meant something very big and very dangerous was coming. She ran inside and looked at her scanner. Her blood went cold. Ships were appearing in the sky above Valaris 7. Not one ship. Not two ships. Dozens of ships. Hundreds of ships. They were emerging from hyperspace one after another, filling the orange sky with dark shadows. Each ship was enormous, bigger than anything Yuna had ever seen. They blocked out the sun. Yuna recognized the design from old files in her database. Drakari warships. An entire fleet of them. Her hands started shaking. She had heard stories about what happened when the Drakari fleet arrived somewhere. Entire planets burned. Civilizations disappeared. The dragons did not negotiate. They did not compromise. They simply destroyed anything that bothered them. She looked at Bomi, who was standing by the window, looking up at the ships with wide eyes. "Bomi," Yuna said slowly, her voice trembling. "Those ships, are they here for you?" Bomi made a small sound and looked down at her feet. Guilty. Ashamed. "Oh no," Yuna whispered. "Oh no. Bomi, did you run away from home? Are you important?" Bomi chirped sadly and nodded. Yuna fell into a chair, her legs weak. She had been harboring a Drakari princess for 3 days. She had fed her human food. She had played card games with her. She had let her sleep in her bed. The Drakari were going to kill her. They were going to burn her station and her planet, and probably the entire star system. All because she had tried to help a crying child. But even as the fear filled her heart, Yuna looked at Bomi and felt something else. She did not regret what she had done. If she had to do it again, she would make the same choice. Bomi had been scared and alone. Yuna had helped her. That was the right thing to do. A shuttle detached from the largest warship and began descending toward the surface. Yuna stood up and walked to the door. Bomi ran after her, grabbing her hand with her tiny claws. "It's okay, little one," Yuna said, even though she was terrified. "Whatever happens, it's okay. I'm glad I met you." The shuttle landed outside her station. It was beautiful in a terrifying way, all dark scales and golden lights. A door opened, and figures began walking out. First came soldiers. Drakari guards in armor that shimmered like living metal. They were tall and powerful, each one capable of crushing Yuna with a single claw. They formed 2 lines, creating a path from the shuttle to where Yuna stood. Next came a dragon larger than the soldiers. His scales were silver and gray, and his eyes were sharp and intelligent. He walked with the confidence of someone used to command. This was Taiwan, though Yuna did not know his name yet. And then came the Emperor. Emperor Haiyan was unlike anything Yuna had ever imagined. He was massive, the size of a building, with scales that looked like living starlight. Every color of the rainbow shimmered across his body as he moved. His eyes were ancient, filled with thousands of years of wisdom and power. When he breathed, small flames flickered from his nostrils. He was the most beautiful and most terrifying thing Yuna had ever seen. The Emperor walked toward her station, each step shaking the ground. Yuna's instincts screamed at her to run, to hide, to do anything except stand here waiting to die. But she did not move. She stood her ground, her legs trembling, her heart pounding, and she did something without thinking. She stepped slightly in front of Bomi, putting herself between the little dragon and her father. The Emperor stopped. His massive head lowered until his eyes were level with Yuna's. Each of his eyes was bigger than her entire body. His breath was hot on her skin. "Human," the Emperor said. His voice was like thunder rolling across mountains. It filled the air and made Yuna's bones vibrate. "You stand before the ruler of 3 galaxies. You have kept my daughter from me for 3 days. You have fed her your strange food. You have played your strange games with her. And now, even facing me, you position yourself to protect her." Yuna swallowed hard. Her throat was dry. Her voice came out as barely a whisper. "I didn't know who she was. She was crying. I wanted to help. And if you had known?" The Emperor asked. "If you had known she was Princess Bomi, daughter of the Drakari Empire, would you have acted differently?" Yuna thought about the question. She thought about the scared little dragon with the broken toy. She thought about the nights spent working to fix the memory sphere. She thought about the laughter and the games and the warmth. "No," she said honestly. "I would have done the same thing." She needed help. That's all that mattered. The Emperor stared at her for a long moment. Behind Yuna, Bomi made a small sound and pressed against her leg. Then something unexpected happened. The Emperor's massive head moved even closer, and his ancient eyes softened. The tension in the air changed. The soldiers relaxed their stance. "Guardian Taiwan," the Emperor said, not looking away from Yuna. "You told me this human was remarkable. I believe you understated the truth." Taiwan bowed his head. "She is unlike any human I have observed, Your Radiance." The Emperor looked at Yuna with something that might have been curiosity, or respect, or wonder. "You shielded my daughter just now," he said. "Even believing I might kill you. Even believing my fleet might destroy your world. You stood between her and danger. Why?" Yuna looked down at Bomi, who was still pressing against her leg. She looked back up at the Emperor. "Because she's just a child," Yuna said. "And she was scared. I couldn't let her face that alone, even if the danger was her own father." The Emperor made a sound deep in his throat. It took Yuna a moment to realize he was laughing. "Human," he said. "Yuna, you are either very brave or very foolish. Perhaps both. And I think I would like to know you better." He turned to his guards. "Stand down. There will be no violence here today." Then he looked back at Yuna with those ancient starlight eyes. "We have much to discuss, you and I." Emperor Haiyan lowered himself to the ground outside Yuna's small station. Even lying down, he was still taller than her building. His massive body created shade that covered everything around them. The guards stepped back, giving them space. Only Taiwan remained nearby, watching silently. Bomi ran to her father and climbed up his foreleg, chirping happily. The Emperor's expression softened as he looked at his daughter. He spoke to her in their language, gentle sounds that Yuna could not understand. Bomi showed him the memory sphere, glowing brightly now, and played the hologram of her mother. The Emperor watched the hologram of his mate, silent and still. When the lullaby ended, he closed his eyes for a moment. When he opened them again, they were wet. "My wife recorded this for Bomi before she died," the Emperor said quietly. "It was the last piece of her we had. When it broke, I thought we had lost her forever." Yuna did not know what to say. She had not known the sphere held such important memories. She had just wanted to make a child stop crying. "You're artisans," she said carefully. "They couldn't fix it?" The Emperor shook his great head. "Our finest masters worked on it for months. They had tools you cannot imagine. Knowledge passed down for 10,000 years. They declared it impossible. The damage was too deep, they said. The memory matrix was too fragmented." He looked at Yuna with those ancient eyes. "And then you, a human with copper wire and adhesive, did what they could not. Yuna felt her face get hot. I didn't know it was impossible. I just tried everything I could think of. Yes, the Emperor said slowly. You did not know it was impossible. So you did not stop trying. This is a very human trait, I think. He was quiet for a moment, seeming to gather his thoughts. When he spoke again, his voice was thoughtful. We have watched your species for a long time, Yuna. Centuries. We watched you crawl out of your caves and build cities. We watched you fight your wars and make your peace. We watched you reach for the stars. He paused. We were not impressed. Yuna felt a sting at those words, but she said nothing. Humans are young, the Emperor continued. You live such short lives. 100 years if you are lucky. We thought you were too chaotic, too violent, too fragile to matter in the grand scheme of things. We decided to ignore you until you either grew up or destroyed yourselves. And now? Yuna asked quietly. The Emperor looked at her for a long moment. Now I wonder if we were wrong. Not about your youth or your chaos. Those things are true. But perhaps we missed something important. He reached out one massive claw and gently touched the memory sphere that Bomi was still holding. You fixed this because a child was crying. You did not know Bomi was a princess. You did not expect thanks or reward. You simply saw someone in pain and wanted to help. That's not special, Yuna said. That's just being a person. No, the Emperor said firmly. That is being a good person. There's a difference. In my 10,000 years, I have met many beings who would help only if there was something to gain. I have met very few who would help simply because help was needed. He gestured with his head toward the sky, where his fleet still hung among the stars. I command 1,000 warships. I rule an empire that spans 3 galaxies. Billions of beings bow to my word. And yet none of them could do what you did. None of them would have sacrificed their own resources, their own connection to their people, for a stranger's child. Yuna felt tears forming in her eyes. She did not know why. I just wanted her to stop being sad. Yes, the Emperor said softly. That is exactly the point. He straightened up, and when he spoke again, his voice was formal, carrying the weight of imperial decree. Yuna of Earth, for your kindness to my daughter, for restoring our most precious memory, for reminding an old dragon that there is still goodness in the universe, I offer you a choice. He gestured, and Taiwan stepped forward, holding a small device that projected images into the air. Images of planets, ships, treasure beyond imagination. You may have anything in my power to give, the Emperor said. Wealth, land, technology, a planet of your own. Name it, and it is yours. Yuna looked at the images. They were beautiful, tempting. A part of her wanted to ask for it all, to become rich and powerful and never be alone again. But then she looked at Bomi, who was watching her with those big golden eyes. The little dragon had crawled down from her father and was standing near Yuna's feet, her tail swishing nervously. I don't want any of that, Yuna said. The Emperor tilted his head. Nothing? Yuna knelt down and looked at Bomi. I want to be able to see her again. Sometimes, if that's okay. I know she's a princess and she has important things to do. But we're friends now. I'd miss her if she just disappeared. Bomi made a happy sound and jumped into Yuna's arms, wrapping her wings around her neck. The Emperor was silent for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was thick with emotion. You could have anything. Anything at all. And you ask only to see my daughter. She's my friend, Yuna said simply. Friends are more important than treasure. The Emperor made that deep laughing sound again. Guardian Taiwan, did I not tell you? This human is remarkable. You were correct, Your Radiance, Taiwan said, and Yuna thought she saw him smile. The Emperor rose to his full height, blocking out the sky. Very well, Yuna of Earth. Your wish is granted. Bomi may visit you whenever she likes, and you shall have a ship capable of visiting her as well." He paused, then continued, "But I would give you more than that. You have shown me something today. You have shown me that humanity, for all its youth and chaos, has a gift we ancient ones have forgotten." His voice became a proclamation, echoing across the plains. "Let it be known throughout the Drakari Empire. From this day forward, humans are declared kindred of the First Daughter. Any who threaten them shall answer to the Imperial fleet. Any who harm them shall face dragonfire. Humanity is under our protection." Yuna stared up at him, her mouth open. "Your Majesty, it is not a gift," the Emperor said. "It is gratitude. Your species has reminded me why the universe is still worth caring about. This is the least I can do in return." He lowered his head one more time, bringing his eye close to Yuna. "Thank you, Yuna, for helping my daughter, for fixing our memories, for being exactly what you are." The fleet began to move, ships repositioning for departure. Bomi made a sad sound, knowing she had to leave. But this time, the goodbye was not forever. "I'll see you soon," Yuna said, hugging her tight. "I promise." "Yuna, mother," Bomi said in her chirping voice. It was the first time she had combined human words together. "Love you." Yuna's heart felt like it might burst. "I love you too, little one." She watched as Bomi climbed back up to her father. She watched as the Emperor gave her one final nod of respect. She watched as the shuttle carried them back to the fleet, and then she was alone. Again on VELARS-7. But not really alone. Not anymore. She looked up at the stars, where the Drakari fleet was disappearing into the darkness. Somewhere out there, dragons were telling stories about a human who fixed broken things. Somewhere out there, an empire was watching over humanity for the first time, all because she had helped a crying child. Yuna smiled, picked up her tools, and went back to work. There were always things that needed fixing, and she was very good at fixing things, even impossible ones.